I never thought a simple workout session could turn into something that would screw with my head for weeks. But, well, here I am, still replaying the moment it all started, when he stayed after hours. Let me back up a bit. I work as a personal trainer at this gym downtown. It's the usual deal. People come in, sweat, complain, get pumped, and leave. For me, it's just a job, nothing fancy. I like the routine, the straightforwardness of it. No awkward small talk, unless they want it. Most of my clients are regulars, so I know their quirks and goals, and they know I won't sugarcoat anything. It's a good balance. Then there's Alex. I first met Alex about 2 months ago. He was one of those people who looked like they belonged in a suit, not a gym tank top, and sweatpants. Tall, dark hair, a little scruffy like he hadn't bothered with a shave in a day or two. He came in for a session, and something about his nervous energy caught my attention right away. Not the usual "I hope this works" vibe most newbies have, but more like he was hiding behind a wall of self-consciousness. The first session was awkward, to be honest. He wasn't exactly a rookie, but he wasn't confident either. He kept glancing around, checking the mirrors, maybe hoping no one was paying attention. I figured it was just first-timer jitters. I tried to keep things casual, cracking jokes, making sure he didn't feel judged. Surprisingly, by the end of the hour, he seemed a little lighter, maybe even enjoying himself. After a few weeks, Alex and I developed this easy rhythm. He showed up, we worked through the routines, and he started opening up about his day job, his weekend plans, stuff like that. Turns out, he's a graphic designer working freelance, which explains the late-night emails and the jittery caffeine habit. He's funny, sharp, but there's always this guarded part of him I couldn't quite reach. Most days, clients don't hang around after sessions. They grab their stuff, thank me, and rush off. But that one Tuesday, something happened that caught me completely off guard. The gym was quiet, off-peak hours, and I was wrapping up with another client when I noticed Alex still sitting on one of the benches by the free weights area. Normally, he'd be gone by now, probably checking his phone, but he wasn't moving. Curiosity got the better of me, so I casually walked over. "Hey, you still here? Forgot something?" I asked, trying not to sound like I was prying. He looked up, surprised. For a moment, I thought I caught a flicker of hesitation, like he wasn't sure how to answer. "Nah, just didn't feel like leaving yet," he said, voice low. That was it. Just a simple sentence. But for some reason, it sent this weird ripple through me. Like maybe there was more to this than just hanging around the gym. I didn't push it. I grabbed a towel and started wiping down the weights nearby, hoping to keep it casual. But I could tell Alex was waiting for something, or maybe someone. "Want to hit the mats?" "I could show you some stretches," I offered, more on a whim than anything else. He hesitated again, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, why not?" We moved over to the stretching area, and as I guided him through the routines, I caught myself noticing things I hadn't before. The way his hands lingered a little too long on his knees, the way his eyes avoided mine but kept darting back. It felt electric, but also confusing. By the time we were done, the gym lights were dimming for closing. "So, see you next week?" I asked, hoping to keep the conversation light. He looked up, a small, genuine smile playing on his lips. "Yeah, I'd like that." And just like that, something shifted. The gym didn't feel like just a place to work out anymore. It felt like the start of something unexpected, and honestly, a little terrifying. I had no idea what was coming next, but I knew I couldn't just let that night slip away like any other session. There was something about Alex staying after hours that night that changed everything. And I was about to find out exactly what. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way Alex looked when he smiled. That small, genuine smile that felt so rare, like I'd caught a glimpse of something real beneath the surface. Honestly, it threw me off more than I expected. I'm used to keeping things professional, compartmentalized, but with him, it was different. There was this whole other layer I wanted to explore, but I wasn't sure how to even start. Over the next week, I found myself looking forward to his sessions in a way I hadn't felt before. The gym was the same old place, but the moment Alex walked in, everything shifted. I noticed the way his eyes lit up when I greeted him, but also how he seemed more relaxed, like that night after hours had broken some kind of ice. One afternoon, during a routine workout, I decided to push a little further, not with the exercises, but with the conversation. "So, what do you usually do after work?" I asked as he struggled through some overhead presses, trying to keep the tone casual. He paused, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and looked over at me. "Honestly, mostly just work. I'm freelance, so it's kind of all over the place. Nights are usually my office hours, late emails, deadlines." "Sounds rough," I said, handing him a water bottle. He chuckled softly. "It's not bad. Keeps me busy, but sometimes I think about just stepping away from it all, Maybe do something different." I nodded, intrigued. "Like what?" He shrugged, eyes flickering away for a second. "Honestly, I don't really know. Maybe something more social, less isolating." I caught the hint of loneliness beneath his words, and it tugged at me. "Well, if you want, you could always hang out after your workouts. The gym isn't always a bad place to be social." He smiled, this time a little wider. "Yeah, maybe." After that conversation, our sessions got a little more than just physical. We started exchanging little bits about our lives. I learned that Alex had moved to the city a few years back, trying to chase his own version of success. He wasn't the most outgoing guy, but there was this quiet depth to him that I found really appealing. One evening, the gym was nearly empty except for a late-night yoga class winding down. I was finishing up some paperwork near the front desk when I saw Alex lingering again. This time, he wasn't just sitting on the bench. He was leaning against the wall, scrolling on his phone, but not really focused. I walked over, curious. "Hey, burning the midnight oil again?" He looked up, eyes tired but bright. "Yeah. Had a deadline today, and it just dragged on." I nodded, understanding the freelance hustle all too well. "Want to grab something to eat?" My treat. He blinked, surprised. "Now?" "It's pretty late." "Exactly. No one's around. Could be nice to get out of here for a bit." There was a pause. I expected him to say no. He'd always seemed a little guarded, but then he smiled, that same soft smile that had stuck in my mind since day one. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." We ended up at this little 24-hour diner a few blocks away. The kind of place where the waitresses know your order before you sit down, and the jukebox plays old rock ballads. We slid into a booth, and for the first time, the conversation flowed without the usual distractions of the gym. We talked about everything and nothing. His favorite movies, my terrible attempts at cooking, the weird quirks of city life. There was something easy between us, like we'd known each other longer than a couple of months. At one point, I caught him staring at me, eyes soft but searching. It made my stomach do a weird flip. "So," he said quietly, "why do you really do this?" "Trainer, I mean." I thought about it. "I like helping people get stronger, yeah. But mostly, I like seeing them surprise themselves. Like when someone thinks they can't do something and then suddenly they do. It's kind of addictive." He nodded, folding his hands on the table. "I wish I had that kind of confidence." I smiled, leaning in a bit. "You're stronger than you think. You just don't give yourself enough credit." He laughed, but behind it, I caught a flicker of vulnerability. Maybe you're right. That night, walking back to the gym to grab our things before closing, the air between us felt charged, like something was hanging just beneath the surface. We paused outside the door, and for a moment, neither of us moved. "Thanks for tonight," he said finally. "Any time," I replied, my voice a little louder than I wanted it to be. He hesitated, then glanced sideways at me. "Maybe we could do it again? Outside the gym?" My heart thumped so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Yeah, I'd like that." That was the moment everything started to feel real. The sessions weren't just work anymore. They were something I looked forward to for reasons that had nothing to do with fitness. But as much as I wanted to dive in, I also worried. What if this was just a fling? What if it messed up the easy rhythm we had? I wasn't sure where Alex stood, and I guess part of me was scared to find out. Still, one thing was clear. I didn't want to let him slip away. And so the next time he stayed after hours, I wasn't just a trainer anymore. I was a guy hoping for a chance. After that night at the diner, our dynamic shifted in ways I couldn't have predicted. The usual rhythm of gym sessions mixed with casual texts between workouts, the kind that started as fitness-related but slowly morphed into little check-ins about how each other's day was going. It was all subtle, nothing we explicitly defined, but it felt like we were inching towards something. One Thursday evening, Alex showed up looking more worn out than usual. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he moved slower than normal, like the weight of the week was dragging him down. Usually, he came in with this quiet energy, even if it was nervous, but now it felt like he was carrying this invisible load. We started the session as usual, me leading him through a circuit of exercises, but about halfway through, he suddenly dropped the dumbbells and leaned back on the bench, breathing heavily. "Rough day?" I asked, kneeling beside him. He ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head. "More like a rough week. The freelance gigs are piling up, and honestly, I'm feeling stuck, like I'm running in place." I nodded, understanding all too well the freelance grind. Great freedom, but also this endless pressure to keep hustling. Sometimes it helps to take a step back, even if it's just for a bit. He looked up, exhaustion mixed with something else. Maybe hope? Yeah, maybe. But stepping back feels impossible right now. We sat there in silence for a moment. The gym was empty except for a janitor quietly working his rounds. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting this stark glow over everything. I wanted to reach out, but I wasn't sure if it was my place. Still, I found myself saying, "You don't have to carry it all alone, you know." Alex's gaze met mine, and for a second, I thought I saw hesitation, like he was weighing whether to open up or shut down. Then, slowly, he exhaled. "Sometimes it's just hard to admit that you're not okay," he said quietly. "Especially when you're supposed to have everything figured out." I smiled softly. "Yeah, I get that. No one really has it all figured out. Not even the people who act like they do." He chuckled, the tension easing a bit. "Thanks, man. I guess I just needed to hear that." The rest of the session was lighter, but there was this new undercurrent between us, like we'd crossed some invisible line. When it ended, instead of rushing out like usual, Alex lingered again. "Hey," he said almost shyly, "you want to grab a coffee? No deadlines, no gym talk. Just a break." I grinned, trying to hide how much I wanted to say yes. "Absolutely." We found a little cafe nearby that was still open. The place was cozy, with mismatched chairs and the faint smell of fresh bread. We grabbed a corner table, and for the first time, I felt like I was seeing Alex outside of the gym's fluorescent bubble. Over steaming cups of dark roast, we talked about everything. His childhood in a small town, the move to the city, the fears that kept him awake at night, and the dreams he rarely voiced out loud. I shared bits of my own story, about why I became a trainer, how I'd always been the helping hand type, but struggled when it came to letting people in. There was this moment when he reached out and brushed a stray hair from my forehead. A small gesture, but it sent a jolt through me. "Why didn't you tell me you were dealing with all this?" I asked softly. He shrugged, eyes flickering away. "I guess I didn't want to seem weak. Or maybe I thought no one would get it." I shook my head. "You're not weak. And I get it. More than you know." The conversation drifted, but the connection stayed. When it was time to leave, the air between us felt thicker, charged in a way that made my heart race. Outside, under the street lamp's soft glow, he hesitated. Then, almost like he was gathering courage, he said, "I'm glad I stayed after hours that first night." I smiled, heart pounding. "Me too." Before I could overthink it, I reached out and took his hand. It was tentative at first, fingers intertwining carefully, but soon it felt natural, right? Walking back to the gym, hand in hand, I realized this wasn't just about workouts or freelance stress anymore. It was about trust, connection, maybe even something more. But beneath the excitement, there was this quiet fear. Opening up meant risking getting hurt, and neither of us had much practice with that. Still, as we stepped into the quiet gym, I knew one thing. I wasn't ready to let this go. Not now. Not ever. Holding Alex's hand as we stepped back into the quiet gym Felt like stepping into new territory, both exhilarating and a little terrifying. The way his fingers fit with mine was comfortable, but there was this electric pulse beneath it, like we'd crossed a line and there was no going back. We found ourselves in the stretching area, the same place where we had that first after-hours session. The room smelled faintly of rubber mats and disinfectant, and the dimmed lights made everything feel intimate, like our own little world. So I said, breaking the silence, "What now?" Alex gave me a half smile, one that was both nervous and hopeful. "I don't know. I guess we figure it out." I laughed softly. "That sounds like a plan." We sat side by side on the floor, legs stretched out, bodies close but not touching. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I could hear the low hum of the ventilation system, the distant clatter from the janitor finishing his rounds. Then Alex shifted and looked at me, eyes searching. I've never really done this before. Like, had someone who gets it. I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. Me neither. It's kind of terrifying, but also nice. He looked down at his hands for a second, then back up at me. I've spent so much time trying to keep everything together, being the strong one. I'm not sure how to be this other version of myself. "That's okay," I said softly. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real." He smiled, this time without any hesitation. "Thanks for saying that." There was this warmth between us that I wanted to hold on to forever. I reached out, brushing a stray curl from his forehead again, this time lingering a little longer. His breath hitched, and I could feel his heartbeat quicken. For the first time, I realized I didn't just want to train him anymore. I wanted to be with him. The next few weeks were a mix of excitement and awkwardness. We kept our sessions at the gym, but things had changed. There was laughter where there had been silence, touches that lasted a little too long, and conversations that stretched beyond the usual fitness talk. One night, after a particularly grueling session, we sat on the bench near the entrance, both exhausted but grinning. "You're getting stronger," I teased. He rolled his eyes. "Yeah, and you're turning into a bit of a coach/therapist." I laughed. "Hey, it's a package deal." He nudged me playfully. "Well, I'm glad you're here." There was a pause. I wanted to say so much, but the words tangled in my throat. Instead, I asked, "Want to grab dinner? Real food, not protein bars?" He nodded eagerly. "Yeah, let's." We walked out together, the city's neon lights casting colorful reflections on the wet pavement. We found a taco truck nearby. Messy, greasy, but perfect. We sat on a bench, eating, sharing bites and stories. It felt carefree, like a small escape from all the stress that filled our days. At one point, Alex looked over at me, eyes soft. "I think I'm falling for you." My heart nearly stopped. I swallowed hard and met his gaze. "I was hoping you'd say that first." He laughed nervously. "Guess I'm more straightforward than I thought." I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. "Good, because I'm falling for you." That night, as we walked back to our separate apartments, the promise of something new hung between us. Neither of us knew exactly where it would go, but we both wanted to find out. But not everything was smooth sailing. The reality of our lives, work stress, freelance uncertainty, the usual insecurities, kept creeping in. One afternoon, Alex canceled our session last minute, saying he had too much on his plate. I didn't hear from him for 2 days, and the silence gnawed at me. I wondered if I'd scared him off, if maybe I'd misread everything. When he finally called, his voice was shaky. "Hey, sorry I disappeared. I've just been overwhelmed." I didn't want to push, but I also didn't want to lose what we had. "I get it. Want to talk?" There was a long pause before he spoke. "Yeah, I do." "Can we meet?" We met at the same cafe, where we'd had our first real conversation outside the gym. Alex looked tired but determined. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Of failing. Of not being enough. Of letting you down." I reached across the table and took his hand. "You don't have to be perfect. I'm here for the real you, the messy, complicated you." He squeezed my hand, a small smile breaking through. "Thanks. That means everything." As we sat there, hands entwined, I realized that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It was about showing up, being honest, and choosing each other, even when it's scary. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd found someone worth the risk. After that cafe conversation, things between Alex and me felt more real, like we'd finally peeled back the layers and were looking at each other without any masks. But real life has this funny way of reminding you that even when you find something good, it doesn't come without its complications. A few days after we talked, I showed up for our usual session, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. I hadn't seen him in a couple of days, and I was eager to catch up, but also cautious, not wanting to push too hard. He was already there, sitting on the bench near the weights, scrolling on his phone. When he looked up and saw me, his smile was genuine but tired. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey." I replied, grabbing a towel and handing it to him. The session started off easy, stretching, light cardio, but I could tell Alex wasn't feeling it. His movements were sluggish, and he kept glancing around like he had something on his mind. Finally, halfway through a set of squats, he stopped. "Can we talk?" I nodded, setting the weights down. "Sure." He took a deep breath and ran a hand through his hair. "I've been offered a big project. Like, really big. It could mean a lot for my career." "That sounds amazing," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It is. But it means long hours, probably weekends, and a lot of stress. I'm not sure how I'll manage." I was quiet for a moment, letting it sink in. "So what does that mean for us?" He looked down, fiddling with the edge of his shirt. "I don't want to lose this. You! But I'm scared I'll disappear under the workload, that I won't have time for, well, anything." I reached out and touched his arm. "Hey, whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. No pressure, no expectations, just us." He looked up, eyes searching mine, and I saw relief there. "Thanks." That means a lot. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Alex juggling this huge opportunity and us trying to find space between everything. I realized that love, in whichever form it comes, doesn't erase life's challenges. It just makes facing them a little less scary. Over the next few weeks, the project consumed Alex. He was working late nights, weekends, answering emails in the middle of the night. Our sessions at the gym became sporadic, sometimes canceled last minute. I understood, but it still stung. One evening, I showed up after hours, hoping to catch him for a quick workout or even just a chat. The gym was practically empty, and I found him slumped on the mat in a stretching area, eyes closed, headphones on. I sat beside him quietly, not wanting to disturb him. After a few minutes, he took off his headphones, looking exhausted. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey," he replied, managing a weak smile. I hesitated, then said, "You should rest. You look wiped." He sighed. "I feel like I'm running on empty, but I can't stop. This project, it's everything I thought I wanted." I nodded, knowing how that felt. Sometimes, it's okay to admit it's too much. He looked at me, eyes glossy. "I don't want to disappoint you, or myself." "Alex," I said, reaching out to squeeze his hand, "you're not a project or a deadline. You're you, and I'm here no matter what." He swallowed hard, then leaned his head on my shoulder. "Thanks for staying." In that quiet gym, with a hum of machines in the background and the night pressing in around us, I realized that being there for someone, really being there, was the kind of strength neither of us could train for. A few days later, things shifted again. Alex called me from his apartment, voice a little breathless. "Can you come over?" "I need to talk." When I arrived, he opened the door looking more composed but nervous. "I've been thinking," he began, "about the project, about us. I don't want to lose what we have, but I also need to figure out how to balance everything." I nodded, sitting beside him on the couch. "That makes sense." He took a deep breath. "I want to try to make room for both, but I might need help with finding the balance." I smiled, feeling something warm spread in my chest. "You don't have to do it alone." We spent the evening talking about schedules, boundaries, and hopes. It wasn't perfect, and we didn't have all the answers, but there was a commitment there that felt stronger than any workout plan. As I left his place later, Walking back through the quiet streets, I felt this strange mix of vulnerability and hope. Love wasn't about having everything figured out. It was about showing up, falling sometimes, but always getting back up. Together, and honestly, I was ready for that. The days that followed our talk felt like walking a tightrope. Delicate, a little terrifying, but also strangely exhilarating. Alex was determined to juggle his big project and us, which was both admirable and exhausting for both of us. I could tell he was trying to carve out space for me, for us, but the weight of deadlines still pressed heavy on his shoulders. One Friday night, I was closing up the gym after my last client when I got a text from Alex. "Can you come over? Need a break from screens." I smiled, grabbed my jacket, and headed to his place. When I arrived, the apartment was dim except for a small lamp in the corner. Alex was sprawled on the couch, looking worn but relieved to see me. "You're a sight for sore eyes," he said, patting the seat next to him. I sat down, noticing the sketchbook open on the coffee table, pages filled with designs and doodles. "Working on something new?" He nodded. "Trying to clear my head. Sometimes drawing helps me breathe." I reached over and picked up one of the sketches, an abstract design with bold lines and chaotic shapes. "It's intense." "Like my brain," he replied with a tired laugh. We sat in companionable silence for a while, the kind that doesn't need filling with words. I could feel the tension radiating off him, like he was holding himself together with sheer willpower. After a few minutes, he turned to me, eyes serious. "I'm scared this is gonna blow up in my face. That I won't be enough, not at work, not here." I took his hand in mine, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You're more than enough, Alex, and I'm not going anywhere." He smiled softly, but there was still that shadow of doubt. I realized then that no matter how much I wanted to be his rock, sometimes all I could do was be there and hope it was enough. A few days later, our schedules finally aligned for a proper day off together. No work, no stress, just us. We decided to hit a nearby park, a little green oasis in the middle of the city chaos. We spread a blanket under a big oak tree, the sun filtering through the leaves in dappled patches. It felt like a different world, quiet, peaceful, untouched by deadlines. Alex leaned his head on my shoulder, and I felt my heart swell. "I needed this," he murmured. "Me too," I said, wrapping an arm around him. We talked about silly stuff, movies we wanted to see, places we'd travel to one day, our favorite childhood memories. It was easy and lighthearted, a welcome escape. But then, out of nowhere, Alex's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "I had a call today," he said quietly. "The client wants to move up the deadline." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean for you?" "More hours, less sleep, probably cutting back on sessions, maybe even pulling away from us." The words hung heavy between us. I tightened my grip around him. "Hey, we knew this wouldn't be easy, but we'll figure it out. Together." He sighed, leaning back against me. "I hope so." That night, after he left, I lay awake thinking about balance, about how love and ambition don't always play nice, but also about how sometimes the hardest moments make the connection stronger. The next week was a whirlwind. Alex's calls came at all hours, his stress levels skyrocketed, and our time together shrank to stolen moments. Quick texts, hurried goodnights, rushed gym sessions. One evening, I found him at the gym after closing, slumped over the bench, exhaustion etched deep into his face. "Alex," I said gently, sitting beside him, "you can't keep burning the candle at both ends." He shook his head, voice hoarse. "I have to. If I don't, someone else will." I looked at him, really looked at him. The man trying so hard, pushing past his limits. "Maybe it's okay to ask for help," I said softly. "You don't have to do this alone." He met my gaze, and for the first time in weeks, there was a flicker of something. "Hope, maybe. I don't want to lose you," he confessed. "You won't," I promised, leaning in to brush a hand over his cheek. In that moment, everything else faded away. The stress, the deadlines, the exhaustion. It was just us, fragile but real, holding on to something worth fighting for. As we sat there, the gym lights dimmed, shadows stretching around us, I realized that love wasn't about perfect timing or easy paths. It was about choosing each other, again and again, even when life threatened to pull us apart. And for whatever came next, I was ready. That night at the gym, sitting close with Alex, felt like the turning point we needed. Neither of us had illusions about how easy the next chapter would be, but we'd made a choice to face the messiness together. And somehow, that was enough. Over the following weeks, we found new rhythms. Alex learned to set boundaries with his project, carving out time for rest and for us. It wasn't perfect. There were still late nights and canceled plans, but those moments were balanced by the ones where we really connected. We shared lazy Sunday mornings, quiet dinners, and those small, unspoken gestures that build a relationship. A hand on a back, a text just to say, thinking of you, the way he'd look at me across the room and make me forget everything else. One evening, about a month after that conversation, we were sitting on my couch watching a terrible movie neither of us wanted to admit we liked. Alex leaned his head against my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around him without thinking. "I'm glad we found this," he murmured. I smiled, feeling warmth spread through me. Me too. It struck me then how far we'd come, from nervous glances and after-hours workouts to this quiet, comfortable closeness. We weren't just trainer and client anymore. We were partners navigating the unpredictable, beautiful chaos of life. I looked over at him, realizing that love wasn't some grand, sweeping gesture. It was in these everyday moments, in showing up, in patience, in accepting each other's imperfections. "Whatever happens next," I said softly, "we'll handle it. Together." He smiled, eyes bright. Together. And just like that, the future didn't seem so scary anymore. Because sometimes, the best kind of love isn't about fireworks or perfect timing. It's about finding someone who stays after hours, not just at the gym, but in your life. And that's exactly what Alex did.